Think Espace Real Estate.
Yeah, continuing the conversation on all things property with Espace Real Estate. Thanks to Alan Cudahy for joining us a little earlier on. He's handed over the baton to his friend and colleague, the sales director at Espace Real Estate, Danny Abraham, who's joined us live here in the studio. Good to see you, Dan. All well?
Very well, thank you. Good to see you, Tom. Thanks for having us again.
No, good to see you. Still smiling. Things must be good in the market at the moment. So, Alan's teed us up already here because, as he was saying just a few minutes ago, yeah, they've been crunching the numbers on the report. But you're going to put a bit of flesh onto those bones for us. The demographic, the type of buyer coming to market. I mean, not your first rodeo. You've been here for a while. You've seen it develop. You've seen it mature. Is the buyer changing? The profile of the buyer changing?
Yeah, ever so slightly. I think the dynamic ever since COVID has changed quite a lot on the demographic of the buyers coming in. Also, looking at it, the guys that are buying and have been buying over the last 4 years, a little bit like myself, you know, I've been here now 12 years. I don't think I would have been a buyer pre-COVID. Now looking at it, I want to live here. This is going to be home. And I think everyone's, because of what UAE is doing and their future vision, I think everyone wants to be here now. And I think a lot of people are seeing Dubai again as a great opportunity. You know, the weather's great, tax-free, you know, safety element is very strong. And what we're seeing is a lot of wealthy Europeans are bringing their money here. We've seen people move from Singapore, they're expats, but move in here because they're like, you know, again, time-wise for what business they're doing, it just works for them. They feel a little bit safer. The opportunities here again. So I just think the demographic of the old school money has now changed to the new guys coming in and actually looking at this and saying, do you know what actually offers good value to money from what we're used to? So that's changed quite a lot.
One thing that hasn't changed is that in all the times you and I sit down and chat about this, there's one phrase that always crops up, and it is supply and demand. But we're not getting to a point now where that's just defunct, that phrase at the moment, because, yeah, there's demand, but there's no supply.
Oh, it's really, really challenging. Honestly, if we had the supply, obviously the market would be a little bit different and prices maybe would soften slightly. What we're seeing in key communities at the moment is, you know, buyers will come in, they go out and do a tour. You know, we talked about the E50 and how many viewings we're doing. They go and see the standard villas, and they're seeing upgraded villas. They've then got to make the decision, do they go and do one themselves and go and have to spend that money on doing the upgrades themselves, or do they already buy one that's upgraded? I mean, certainly the people that are benefiting in all the communities are the people that haven't done any upgrades to these villas. Obviously, they're reaping the rewards from the guys that are selling these properties. You know, let's say an upgraded villa is selling at 15 million in a community, just for an example. You know, the standard villas now going up, they're going, well, it'll cost 2.5, 3 million to do it, so I'm going to ask for 12. And that's where it becomes challenging. Buyers, I think, then have to look, who is the serious seller? You know, us agents are obviously calling people because we've got so many people that want to buy. We're tempting these guys to come to the market, and it's kind of quite a tricky experience for a buyer to go, what is the true value? Obviously, anywhere in the world, a house is worth what someone's prepared to pay. But there are so many comparable, you know, options that you can see on all of the portals now that we can provide to the client. But as you know, going back, these guys that are coming from Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, you know, Europe, they're looking at these upgraded properties and going, these are amazing. Don't want to deal with the work. I'm very busy. We'll just pay the money, and we're doing it. And that's what we've seen, a big change in the market, and what I guess is quite difficult for us agents going out and actually valuing a property.
Yeah. But, I mean, again, observing the market as we have down the years as well, and there used to be this sort of assumption here, certainly Dubai, other parts of the UAE, you know, it was an investor's market. Investors would come in, they buy up one or multiple properties. That whole culture of flipping properties was part and parcel of it. But it seems that has disappeared now just because of the reluctance to sell. Is that fair?
Well, I think, you know, you've got a few different things there that everyone thinks they're a flipper. You know, you buy a property and the market's gone up 15%. Now, I've actually had one client, most probably, that he should have just not done the upgrades. He would have made more money just the market had gone up. And he thought, I'm now a developer. I can go out and do this multiple times. I think, obviously, the market has moved at such a fast rate over the last 4 years. it's got to a stage now, we're all sellers at the right price, right? I could go and tempt anyone in my office that's got a property, what's your price? They then turn around and say, fantastic once you get it, but they don't know where to go because you can't buy those villas again at that price. I think buyers are a little bit nervous to then go and invest the next step up, and they just sit there and say, actually, I'm quite happy where I am, which is what the issue is. There's, the investor that's coming in, now that's buying these properties, that's not an investor, they're end users, which means there's less property for tenants to come in, which is why tenants are most probably now looking at coming off of an old rent. Do we move further out, at 30 minutes out of where they are, or do we look at the mortgage options and do we go out and buy? If we've got the equity to put the deposit down and we're going to be here 5 to 10 years, we should actually buy it, live in it and enjoy it and actually forget what the market's going to do. Our biggest challenge is obviously Dubai is relatively a new market, or UAE, we're 20, 25 years old. And people look back at the history. Yeah. They're not forward thinking. And this is where the new money that's coming in, they don't really care. I think they feel that it's a little bit more of a mature market now with everything UAE has done as a market. They're like, I feel a little bit more comfortable. And we keep saying new money, it's new people as well, right? And Dubai is a very different place and feel from what it was 5 years ago.
Ain't it just, yeah. Bit tougher getting from A to B at the moment as well than it used to be. Just lastly, 30 seconds of all I got with you. Sorry, should have been more. Knock-on effect, obviously we've been talking about buying market. Knock-on effect on the rental market?
I think on the rental, what we're seeing, one bit of advice I would actually give landlords, they get a bit complacent, especially the old school investors. They can go, let's give an example of a 5-bed in Meadows, most probably rent around 450, 400, depending on the view and the plot. If they invested $1 million, right, go in and invest $1 million, they have a chance of getting 650, 700. So their actual ROI on that extra $1 million, they gain so much more, but they just get lazy. It's very different to a stock or a share. It's a flip of a piece of paper and a click of a button. It's time, effort, speaking to contractors, dealing with it. But don't get lazy with your investment because there's certainly a lot of money to be made.
Good advice from Danny. Big thanks to Danny Abraham for joining us. In fact, we should make that a feature on the radio. Danny's advice of the week. A bit of advice from Mr. Abraham.
Don't say that. John will have me on all the
time. Danny Abraham is the sales director of Espace Real Estate. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
This is the Business Breakfast. We've just gone past 9 o'clock.
Download the ARN News Centre app and stay up to date wherever you go.
Available for free on the App Store.